You. Okay. Welcome everybody. Happy Wine Wednesday. Where's the wine? Tonight we're sipping on a sweet blend, a red Moscato, because I just wasn't feeling it tonight. So we're going sweet tonight. Hope everybody's in a sweet mood and ready to chat. I've got Ray with me already. And before I get talking to Ray, I want to let you guys know. Uh-oh. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Is it me that needs to mute this time? It looks like it. Okay, we're muted. All right. Sorry, guys. I wanted to let you guys know that as we were getting started, we noticed a little delay. When I set up for tonight, it actually told me that they were having some troubles with streaming. So if it's a little delayed or whatever, I apologize. We just thought we wanted to come in and see if anybody wanted to chat. So here we are, doing our best. Come join us. Feel free. And Ray, welcome, Ray. What's up with you?
Just too much work, that's all. A little more note.
Yeah, he was telling me before we went live that he's been working on the house. So he's still in the work attire and still here, ready to talk seahorses with you. So get in here and ask us some questions. Hi, Nanelle, how are you? Hi, Lex. Hi, everybody joining. Open chat tonight. I do have a few things to announce about MACNA, but I'll do that in a second. Otherwise, it's pretty much free for all. If you want to come in and chat, please feel free. I did put the links up in YouTube, and we should be live on Facebook, looks like. Yep. So, yeah, ask away. Let us know if you got anything you want discussed or any questions or anything. But I did want to tell you guys that the Seahorse and Pipefish event at MACNA is going to happen. We are going to have it Saturday morning at 10:30. Really exciting news is that I do believe I've managed to get Dan Underwood to make a huge appearance at this said event. Woo! I think Alyssa might be in the neighborhood. I haven't actually talked to her, but hopefully she'll stop in. We'll have Paula from the Dallas World Aquarium. So a bunch of really high up professionals that are there to talk seahorse and pipefish with you. Lucy actually made a fabulous event cover for the Facebook cover event, and I just hadn't had time to get it up. So that will be up right after we get done here tonight. And then you can sign up and let us know that you're coming, because Lucy's already talking about a few surprises she'd like to throw at anyone who attends. And for those of you in other places like Sam, we will do something as far as getting you in there via stream, I promise, because we wish you could be there with us. But anybody in Florida, near Florida, or going to MACNA, please go to the Seahorse Whisperer Society page on Facebook and sign up after we get done with this stream for the Seahorse and Pipefish event at MACNA, because it's going to be off the hook. All right. No wine unless you bring it, but we'll have other surprises for show. And
I have a non-seahorse question.
Okay, go ahead.
At the top of this YouTube on the right side, it says Seahorse Whisperer, has the Hangouts link. And the third one is the YouTube link. In the second one, it's HTTP, bit and LY and 2NP309. What's that link for?
Okay, what that is, I was pulling this up on here too. Hi, Lucy. Okay, Lucy doesn't have a connection. That's not why she's not here right now. That's okay, honey. I was just telling everybody how I'm going to get your beautiful ad up as soon as we get off the stream. But anyways, Ray, what happens is that I get a link to the Hangout, and I share that link with you guys in the email. And I put that link in the YouTube comments. But people always say that, like, if they have a phone or something like that, that they can't click that link. So if I copy the link, take it over to Bitly, which is like a link shortener. They just give you a shorter link. And I put that link into the chat, and then I copy it into YouTube terms, then they say it works. So I just put all three up, like, get in here however you can. Whichever link works,
Glad it's you that can figure it out.
What?
I'm glad it's you that can figure it out.
Oh, well, we have issues every week, but it's cool. I'm doing my best. And Hi, Kim. Oh, you got to me on the iPad. Woo! Yay! All right. Well, feel free to ask some questions. We're in the every time I start Wine Wednesday, if I don't have an interviewed guest going, I always sit here and I'm like, well, gee, should we talk weather or should I grill Ray on his seahorse keeping or what? So, so when it's
What I want
open
to know first,
chat, what?
I want to know how come Lucy's husband gets priority?
Oh, Lucy, you heard the question. How come your husband gets priority? Don't let him hear that though. And so, anyways, yeah, there's a question for Lucy. And besides that, we just kind of goof off and talk about whatever until there are serious questions. If you have a serious question, always please pipe up and ask. I know Dan said he was going to try to stop in a little bit, and maybe Lisa will pay us a visit, hopefully again too. But and get a conversation going. But when I start these, it's always like, open chats are kind of whatever. So please let me know anything you'd like discussed or whatnot. Um, Lucy says video is frozen. Aww. At the time, it's on my side. Kelly, don't panic. Okay, I hope so because no, really, when I started streaming, it said we're having trouble tonight. Please excuse us. Sorry, like the service I used to stream. So if it's frozen for everybody, I'm so sorry. Sorry. But either way, hopefully you can at least hear me and know that we want you to come to MACNA, Seahorse and Pipefish. Come have fun with us. And so, anyways, Ray, I'm guessing you're not going to fly in for MACNA, right?
That's an understatement.
Daggone it. Wouldn't it be cool if you could, though? Oh, man.
It's a lot more expensive to fly from Canada than it is anywhere in the States.
I'm sure. Have you ever been, I think we talked about this before, but have you ever been to like any kind of shows or seahorse get-togethers at all?
No, I've never been to anything like that.
Really? They're a lot of fun, just to let you know. But you help out so much on the forums and groups. It's really cool. I mean, you do so much work on the side, we can forgive you for not attending, especially considering your location. Okay, let's see. Not frozen. Hi, Alexis. I don't know about the restream bot. Ignore it. Hi, everybody. Okay, guys, give me a topic. What should we chat about tonight? Ray, anything new besides work? Anything new with the seahorses? Anything going on?
No, everything's still going fine.
Still going fine. See, it's kind of like when everybody's doing well, what is there to talk about? It's kind of catch-22 there. I think last time we were talking about algae again. Somehow it always comes back to algae. But
I can't even get it to grow in my, what do you call it? The thing I built for making algae grow.
The scrubber. Algae scrubber?
Yeah, scrubber.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even get it to grow in there anymore. It used to grow hair algae to beat the bend, but now I go 9 days in between cleaning it out, and there's no change in it.
And but the tank, I know you were having trouble at one point, but right now you said you're going 9 days and it's not really growing on the scrubber. Is it growing in the tank?
Oh. Well, the only thing I have in the tank is there's a purple algae that grows. It takes probably the 7 days before it shows up. But the stuff is hard to get off, but it's not as hard as if it was coralline. But
right.
It looks like coralline.
I think you sent me.
That's the only algae that's growing in there anymore.
Did you send me a picture of it? And did I tell you what it was?
I used to get it. Oh no, that was mackerel that I sent the picture.
Oh, okay.
I have that in the tank.
Okay.
There's two what do you call it? Is it a Kenya or a Kenya tree?
Yep.
How do you pronounce it?
I pronounce it Kenya.
Kenya or Kenya?
I say Kenya. Yeah. Tomato. But go on.
And then I have a finger leather. But now that red mackerel that I sent you the picture of, There's a few sprigs of it starting on the rock that the leather coral is on. So
Yeah.
it is transferring.
See, I think that I would personally say that that's the most difficult type of situation to achieve if you're actually trying to grow macro in the display tank and then keep away the bad algae by using a scrubber. It's a system. It works for me, but it's probably one of the more difficult because then you're out competing and out competing and out competing. So it I know we talked last week with Lisa, I think it was Lisa. Sorry if I'm wrong, but someone was saying they were having troubles too with just growing algae, the types that they wanted in the display tank, and it was suggested to put on a scrubber to take care of the nuisance algae. And one of the things that we talked a lot about is the type of lighting. Putting the right type of lighting on the right type of algae will help, one or the other grow better or worse. But it's not easy to do that. So I would have to say in your case, it's probably that you've just got it growing good in the display tank right now. If you wanted to like minimize that, or if you started seeing any nuisance algae, then I would say maybe throw some stronger lights on the scrubber is the only thing I can really think of off the top of my head. I mean, you're not having a problem, so it's cool, but
There's 50 watts of LEDs in there now, 50-watt equivalent. I think that's overkill, really.
really, see now I used.
Yeah, I think it's overkill.
I mean, you could be right.
I forget what the actual wattage is. I think it's about 6 watts each, each of the light.
Well, I'll tell
But,
you, over my refugium in my reef tank. Now, I'd have to look up the exacts because it does depend on the type of tank and the nutrients in the tank, and also, the size and the water volume. But in my reef tank, I was using 90-watt equivalent, in two of them over my refugium. So, and come to think of it, on my scrubber, I do think they're only 30-watt equivalent, but I've got two, and they're both just taking care of a screen versus an entire refugium. So you might be right; it might be overkill, but I use a lot of light. I use the light to make it work. I don't know. Hi, Cheryl. Let's see.
I can't change the color of my lights on the tank because I just took it's actually a homemade light. I just took apart a corncob bulb and took the strips and hooked up wires for extending the distance from the base, and so that's sitting in there, and that's a lumen output of about 5,000 lumens, and color temperature is 5,000. I'm trying to.
I know all that lighting thing gets.
God, I can't remember now what the lumen output.
The all that stuff gets confusing.
I think they're both 5,000. I think color temperature and lumen output. I have another corncob bulb I took apart, and it's a 10,000 lumen output, 5,000 color temperature. But I use that for growing my tomatoes.
Gotcha. Hey, if it grows tomatoes, right? I have.
This light.
Go ahead.
This one on the tank I used for tomatoes last year, but it wasn't strong enough, so I bought the other one and then rearranged it so I could have it on the aquarium here, because the store-bought one that I had on it gave up the ghost.
Aw, that sucks. I hate that. I really do hate that, and I hate trying to remember all the lighting stuff too, because it does matter, and I have to look up everything that if I start a new tank or if somebody asks me a question, I always have to look that stuff up and remember what I've got in my own displays, because I've got so many, and you forget after you've done it for a while. And I've made the mistake, actually, that's the big mistake that I made in my reef, is that I didn't keep up on the bulbs, and they got too dim. One wasn't working and I didn't realize it, and just things went wrong, and that's what basically crashed my reef tank. So it's important stuff for sure, but I don't have much to say about it. Hi, Kim. Oh no, I already said hi to Kim. Well, hi, Kim again. All right, if I'm missing anybody, hello, hello. And yeah, you guys, what do you want to chat about? Talk to me, talk to me. Ray, the system that you're talking about, that's the one that you sent me all the information on, right?
What do you mean by system?
The
The,
algae
the
scrubber that you made.
scrubber? Yeah, I sent information on the scrubber.
Okay, all right. 'Cause I thought
But
I knew I'd
where I
written it.
got the idea,
I'm sorry,
I
what?
got the idea from somebody that posted on, I think it was on Seahorse Source, one of the Facebook things anyway. And when I went back, I couldn't find it. Um, so I had on my computer um, what he had put on Facebook. I copied it and stored it.
Gotcha.
So I just went ahead and then modified it with the things that I had. Like he was talking about buying certain containers that he could use for inside and outside the tank. Well, I just went out to Walmart and bought large quantities of medium Hamburg. Um, I prefer for hamburgers. I prefer just regular Hamburg, but they didn't have any, so I bought two of these, made up all the hamburgers, tucked them in the freezer, and then used these two large containers to make the scrubber with.
Well,
Didn't cost me anything.
well, when you sent me the information, I knew I used those pictures and I wrote an article. It's just not visible yet because of the site, but I remembered the article and I remembered the pictures. So yeah, I mean it's a good, cool idea. Very cool. Um, all right, let's see what else. Holly asked, "Can green hair algae keep the tank cloudy? I do 15% water change weekly, but can't seem to clear it up. I don't believe it's a bacterial bloom." And Holly, help me to remember. I think we talked last week. Thank you for coming again. Thank you. Hope you have your wine. And I think we talked last week. Isn't your tank newer? I'm trying to remember who said what. If your tank's newer, again, I know that I hated hearing that answer over and over again, but with a new tank, those types of things just, tend to happen and work themselves out. But Ray, what do you think? Can green hair algae keep the tank cloudy?
Well, my first thoughts on it, not having much experience with green hair algae other than what's in the scrubber.
Right.
My first thoughts are that the green hair algae can capture uh, food and detritus, and as it's decomposing, maybe it's clouding the water. I'm not sure, but 15% water change weekly won't get rid of it. That's for sure.
So
Not unless it's a 100-gallon tank.
So Ray's thinking bigger water changes. I know Holly corrected me. Apologies, Holly. I get confused about, who said what. But she said no, her tank is 5 years old, but she's battling hair algae. And Cheryl piped up and said that she needs to use activated carbon and UV. Cheryl, I'm really curious about, and Ray, anybody who wants to pipe
And the
up.
skimmer.
Of course, yeah. But I'm
Skimmer as
curious,
well.
what Ray do you use? Do you use a UV?
No, I've never used UV.
Huh. Okay. Well, I'm curious, Cheryl. I happen to agree with. What'd you say?
If you have nuisance algae, it's a simple thing. You either are not exporting the nutrients that are there, or you're putting in too much nutrient for the export that you have. And it's a case of you have to look at one or the other, or a combination of both to get rid of it. And it takes a long time for that to develop, so you can't expect it to go overnight. But you do have to go to extremes, whatever your measures are. And it can be, like I say, it can be a combination of cutting back on what you're putting in and increasing what you're doing to get rid of it. And it depends on your system and how easy it is. If you've got things like a canister filter, maybe you're not changing the canister filter often enough, because you leave the crap in that canister filter for more than a week, and it's going to be adding to the nutrient bioload. And the longer you leave it, the worse it's going to get. So you got to get anything that traps the detritus you have to get it out in a week or less. I prefer 3 days, but everybody has to work with their own system. My system, I make it deliberate to make it easy. It doesn't look as pretty as a lot of tanks are, but at my age, I have to consider the ease of doing things.
And it's not
But
just
like I say,
age. I'm
it
all
comes
about
down
the
to it.
ease.
But those in have to come out. I had people say, well, they got a cleanup crew to get rid of all this stuff. Well, the cleanup crew eats it, and then they have their waste as well. And then there's the micro life after your cleanup crew. They turn around and they eat what the cleanup crew has deposited, and they again have waste that they put out. Only now it gets finer and finer, and so you need um, specific methods to get that stuff out of the water. A skimmer is one of the things because once it's dissolved, and the dissolved organics are not going to come out with any kind of filter. Well, I shouldn't say that. Carbon filtration can get rid of some of it, but your best method, in my opinion, is the skimmer. That being said, I've only got a skimmer on my abs tank. I don't have one on the barbs tank.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it in the barbs
Well, I
tank?
haven't found the need for it. Pardon?
How do you deal with the organic levels in the barb tank? Is that the scrubber tank or?
Yeah, that's the algal scrubber tank.
Okay.
Plus, I change the water more often than some would because there's 7 in a 37-gallon tank.
Right. That's what scares me the
So I do a
most.
complete change every 9 days.
I think I
I
overspoke.
do a complete water change every 9 days.
Right. I think I overspoke him, and I just make sure it got through. He does a complete water change every 9 days. And I sorry, Ray, if I was interrupting you, but yeah, no, I couldn't agree more that you see, and it scares me because I see a lot of tanks with a lot of seahorses or other fish or other things and stuff, and those are typically the people that come back. And I'm not saying you, Holly. I don't even know your particular situation. I'm just saying in general, I've made the mistake myself of trying to do too much in one tank, and then you can't control the organics and etc. But Cheryl and Ray are giving some excellent advice here in that, Ray is correct. Absolutely. Cheryl's giving great tips, but Ray's ultimately correct that it comes down to the input and output and finding that balance. And it's a difficult thing sometimes, but skimmer, Cheryl's mentioned carbon, so did Ray. Water changes a little bit more maybe. With the green hair algae though, one thing, Cheryl, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this part too. But with green hair algae, in my personal opinion, in my situations, when I've done bigger and more water changes, the green hair algae seems to grow faster and soak it up more. Like, you're putting good stuff in when you do water changes too. You're reintroducing minerals and trace elements and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, it's just seemed to fuel green hair algae in the few cases that I've had it. So curious to hear what anybody else says about that. But definitely it's finding a way to overcome the organics. Definitely agree with both of you. And I think I'm missing some of the comments. Oh, Ray, do you think that when we always say use a skimmer, do you think that it depends on the kind of skimmer and like making sure that it's rated properly and so on and so forth?
That you're going to have to ask somebody else. I've never in my life used store-bought skimmer.
Really?
My skimmer, my skimmers were all 4-inch in diameter and about 6 foot tall, and they're the air stone that I use to feed it. They're counter current, and the air stone is 2 inches by 2 inches by about 7 inches long. The bore in it is 7/8 of an inch, and it on my website there's a picture of it with a big box affair on the top, and when I didn't have it adjusted correctly, it was full of foam, and the foam was coming out the top of that and getting on the ceiling.
Jeez.
So it can be cranked away up.
Well, I guess
And that's
if you're
one of the reasons
awesome,
why.
I guess if you're awesome, make your own for sure.
Well, it's a case of I hate spending money if I can do something myself.
Well, there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just know I've personally had troubles when I've tried to buy like some of the hang-on skimmers. They just don't seem to work. Period.
I don't think hang on can have enough. You need something that's really oversized for a seahorse tank. Okay, if
Right.
you got a 30-gallon tank and you got a hang on back skimmer and you got a few clowns in there and maybe a couple other little fish, okay, that's fine. But you're not going to feed that tank the same way you are a seahorse tank. In addition to that, the fish that are in there will take up a greater percentage of the food that you do put in. And while you still have leftover stuff uh, that's going to possibly fuel nuisance algae, it's still not to the same extent that you're going to get out of the seahorse tank.
Right. That's what Cheryl was just saying. She was saying that, seahorses place a very heavy bioload on a tank due to their rudimentary GI tract. I know I said that right, so yay. They're saying that we kind of went dead on Facebook. I know Ray. Oh, Dan's here. Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Hi. I need to make sure we're still on Facebook. Can you guys let me know if it died on us over on Facebook? It looks like it did. I don't
It's
know.
showing,
It is? Okay.
yeah, it's showing on,
I did, Cheryl,
but it's a way behind. They're both a way behind.
right, I know. Again, guys, I apologize. It announced to me before I started on the software that I use that they're having trouble tonight over something. So sorry if it's freezing up. I know I saw Ray go black a few times. Sorry. Still, we're trying to chat. So, hi Dan, how are you?
Mean and ornery.
Yet I announced a little bit ago that Mean and Honorary is going to be at the Seahorse and Pipefish Macna event. I'm so excited. I'm for real, you guys. I'm like about to make chocolate seahorses and shit. Whoops.
Yeah, when they all find out how mean I am, they'll tame down.
Well, if you ever had a desire to meet the mean master over there of the seahorse world, come to Macna on Saturday. Okay. Anyhow, we were just discussing the same old stuff, Dan. We were talking algae again because it seems to be the topic that people are having the most trouble with. Have there been any other topics in the group or anything that you've had talked about lately that you think might be interesting?
You talking about me?
Yeah, like in the group, has there been
Um,
anything discussed lately that?
well, I'm seeing a lot of new people, so I'm seeing a lot of the same old questions come out. How do you enrich? And I'm also seeing a lot of the same old things that are not true come out with Artemia are not nutritious. That's not true. A true statement. You know, um, it's really just a repetition of the same old things, and it's going to happen as you get turnover with people, as some of the older people, attrition takes its toll, and then the new people come in.
Right.
um, so many of these people, everywhere you read, the bad information on the net is still out there.
Yes.
It just doesn't disappear, and invariably they end up coming across it, and every day I'm getting, well, I heard this and I heard that, and I swear half the questions I answer are trying, somebody's confused because they're seeing conflicting information.
Well, actually, that's a really good topic. And I would love for you to expand upon it a little bit because I know when you say things like that, it motivates me to get the site done because I want to have your article, everybody, all the good information in one place. But I know I've written an article about, not using Artemia as a main food source because it's not adequate as a main food source and it might be confusing because of everything that you're saying. So why do you think that it's wrong to say that Artemia is not an adequate food source for seahorses?
I didn't say adequate. that's not the
Oh,
the what they're saying is it's not nutritious.
okay. We're
And
right.
there's a
Good
difference
twist. You're right.
there. There's a difference because not nutritious, they're trying to say it's like eating popcorn. Well, Artemia is naturally full of protein. However, Artemia is lacking in the fatty acid profile for what seahorses or marine animals need. And that, to some extent, can be corrected with proper enrichment procedures.
Right.
And I can tell you, my first year of raising seahorses and broodstock and all that stuff, I used Artemia almost exclusively, but I was, very careful in how we enriched and what we did with it. And, we had, great success using it until I finally figured out how to get seahorses onto frozen foods.
Right. I mean, I do understand. Let me
The
ask you that.
frozen food is one part of the problem.
Uh,
People look at the frozen food package and they look at and see protein and it'll say, I don't know, 5 or 6%. Well, people have to take into consideration what is that measure really of? And on those frozen packs there, when it says the 5, 6, 7%, that is based on the package there, not based on dry weight percentages, which the scientific community is basically going to use. Like Great Salt Lake cysts produced uh, adults that will be in the range of 60%, give or take a few percent. It'll vary a little bit from year to year. But if you're looking at 60% protein, that's a hell of a decent amount of protein to have. And like Dan says, if you enrich it uh, then give them the fatty acids, then that's fine.
Absolutely.
Well,
Let me ask you like this, though. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
there's one caveat to that in that on the fatty acid profile, one of the things that we're looking to give the animals is a high DHA content, which is your higher chain fatty acid. And most many animals in the animal kingdom, including us, are able to take the short chain fatty acids and convert them to long chain as we need them. The seahorses cannot do that. So we need to provide the DHA component. And unfortunately, one of the bad things about Artemia is that they rapidly catabolize DHA back down to EPA. So you have to go to a enrichment that's very high in the DHA to EPA ratio to try to counter that.
Right. Let me. What I was going to ask before, I know what you're saying is correct, but here I'm going to ask the question in this way. You just made the point that so many newcomers are seeking information, hearing the wrong information, getting confused by all the different information. And here's the real question: how many of these newcomers that you encounter are truly going to go to the extent of enriching live Artemia, keeping Artemia, buying Artemia, enriching, blah, blah, blah. So then the question becomes, is it not a better thing to just say, stick with what we know at least will keep them alive? Did that make sense
Well,
as a question?
no, it does, Kelly. But here's the caveat. Okay, is that the average new person asks me what I should feed my seahorses. I tell them frozen mysis.
Right.
Okay, but everybody that gets seahorses now suddenly wants to be a breeder.
Right. I know.
So
Everybody thinks it's so
so
easy. Crazy. Go ahead.
right, and you got people in tears because they're not having success, and they don't realize that 15 years ago nobody was having success.
Right.
It's you know it's a lot more complicated than just going out and saying, okay, where do I buy this? Where's the cheapest place to get them? And that's just not how it works.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yes. When you get into breeding, when you're talking about breeding, it depends on the quality of the cysts. It depends or how it depends on so many things. For anyone out there that just thinks that I laughed at them, please don't feel that way because I am one who failed for many, many times trying to breed seahorses. I had some success, and then basically decided that it was better off left to the pros. And I still do it for fun on the side, but you won't be seeing me, breeding a bunch of seahorses because it's not easy. The pros make it look easy, but there's a reason why there's only a few doing a good job. Anyhow, I mean, and there's plenty of people on the side doing a good job. Don't get me wrong, but it's just a lot of work. A lot of work that it depends on what your goal is. You know, I think that's kind of it. Because I'm thinking as you're talking, Dan and Ray, I'm thinking the whole time that I really believe in my article. I think I said that feeding a seahorse frozen artemia, for the record, is like feeding them popcorn or something. I don't know that wasn't my exact words, but I'm sure I did say something like that because frozen artemia is not very good, right? I mean,
Well, no, it's not that it's not very good. If you'll notice, most of the frozen artemia are enriched with spirulina, which
oh, Dan got a phone call. Well, good, because I want to defend myself here a little bit because the thing is he's right, he's absolutely right, and I agree with him 100%. But I just think the frozen foods are just so not very good in the first place. That's really bottom line. If you can do live foods, do live foods. Then again, most people are looking for captive bred seahorses based on the point that they don't have to do live foods. So it just gets kind of confusing. And it depends on what a person's goals are, If you're looking to breed, he's absolutely 100, he's correct anyways, y'all. Don't let me fool you. But I'm just saying, take into consideration that if you're going to do artemia, you do need to enrich it, or you need to make sure it's a quality frozen, truly enriched blend. I personally, when it comes to frozen, will stick with mysids. And then I give my seahorses a treat of live artemia that's been enriched when I'm able to do it, because I just can't do it like they do it. They do it all the time. They enrich on a daily basis, these breeders. So, no, I'm kidding. But anyways, are you back, Dan, to school me? He's still on the phone. All right, Ray, would you like to
Yep.
argue with me?
Well, if you say something that I've got an argumentative point to use,
Well,
to bring up.
I feel guilty when that topic comes up because I know that I personally have told people, if you have to, like, I always try to make it if you have to choose, but if you have to choose between frozen mysis and frozen artemia, go with mysis. If you have to choose between, because there's all these caveats that a normal hobbyist isn't going to do. They're not going to
With the
enrich.
frozen food, I agree with the mice as being the preferred one.
Yeah. But,
But I prefer myself to do both. But
right.
to expect someone to be able to, unless they have an easy and cheap source of buying adult artemia, to expect someone to raise and grow their own is a bit much, especially when a lot of people don't have their own house. They're in apartments, so they're limited for room. Whereas with me, I've got a whole room in the basement devoted just to growing the copepods and the brine shrimp. I grow brine shrimp in 26-gallon Rubbermaid containers. And at the most, when I was selling to the stores around here, I had 3 of those containers on a go all the time. In addition to that, I had more of those containers that I grew the Chloropsis in, because in those days you could grow in deep containers because we had spotlights, and you could have a high-powered spotlight, like an outdoor spotlight, that would penetrate in a container like that. You can no longer buy those spotlights, at least here in Canada, and so you can't grow anything in that kind of depth now. But I used to have 150 gallons of Nanochloropsis on the grow all the time, just feeding up all my brine shrimp containers and the copepods, and plus the selling that I was doing. But with the spirulina, with the brine shrimp, I only use the live nano for about the first 10 days. And then I switch over to the spirulina powder that I also add Algamax 3050 to it. And so I'm growing them on that high DHA additive, which that Algamac is. And then once I'm going to use them for food when they're adults, I take it out and I run them with strictly the high DHA enrichment for 24 hours, 2 12-hour stages.
Hmm.
Uh, so to feed my seahorses now, I like to feed at least one day a week, feeding on the live. Um, Occasionally, if I screw up and don't do something right, then I might have a week that I have to skip on. Or when I'm going away on holidays, I stop growing them because I can't expect anybody else to do the work that needs
Right.
to maintain them. And if I can't expect anybody else to do that, how can I expect a hobbyist that already is going to be faced with higher maintenance loads for their seahorse tank than they would for, say, a reef tank? How can I expect them to spend more time even to grow their own live food? So
Right.
while it's not practical for everybody.
Well, just for the record, anyone watching, Ray just gave a really good example of a great way to do it. If you're, and I want to mention too, we do have new resources now. We've got, Reed's Mariculture, we've got Reef Nutrition, we've got supplies of copepods, mysids, live foods. We've got good, clean sources these days that they didn't have back then. So things are a lot different. You can just buy it in, enrich it, and feed it. You can grow it at home. They sell kits. I think it's at Reed Mariculture, not Reef Nutrition, but they sell kits to grow these things. If you're interested in breeding, your best bet is to talk to people like Ray, come in here and ask about it. Talk to people like Dan, talk to people like Cheryl, who have successfully done this for a really long time. Lucy also, because they'll give you the real deal on how much it really takes. And so I guess the sum of the story is Dan's absolutely right, as is Ray. The Artemia is nutritious. It just does not have the exact things that we now know a seahorse needs, so you have to enrich it in order to get that DHA into the diet. In fact, Ray said something interesting about only using Nanochloropsis for so many days. And that's because they discovered that Nanochloropsis doesn't have the DHA stuff that seahorses need. And yes, I'm putting it in very simple terms. But they realized that enrichment isn't even, it's not putting in what seahorses need. So there's just a lot of different quirks. So if you're trying to breed, definitely talk to these guys and get things down right and understand how difficult it really is. And if you're trying to keep seahorses, well then just listen to me because I'll keep them alive for you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Can I
just
go
kidding.
off topic for a sec?
What?
At the end of my fry rearing career, I got into freeze-dried copepods.
Ooh.
I was using those to wean them off before I got into the shaved mysis to get them off alive. And unfortunately, with my health the way it went, I ended up dropping out doing the raising the fry. And so I'm just curious if anybody else has ever tried it. With the freeze dried, you have to soak them in advance so that they don't just sit and float on top of the water when you add them. But I was just curious to find out if anybody out there had thought of trying it to see.
Absolutely. Let us know if you've tried that. I think Dan was talking about that last week. That it's a really good idea, but just getting hobbyists to understand how to do it and do it on a regular basis might be a little much. But yeah, we're interested in all opinions. What do you guys think? Should they come out with a freeze-dried copepod? I'm curious also, Cheryl, Dan, or Ray. I know that one of the things that Felicia taught me to use when I was weaning fry, it's been a minute for me guys, but was the Cyclops. Anybody else use that? Does that have the proper nutrition? I honestly don't know at this point, but at that time, it was considered a good weaning food. Anybody
I
use
tried
that?
the fry and the re-dye fry, and I didn't have any success. But
Really?
the freeze-dried copepods, it took me a bit to get used to how to make sure that they were soaked properly before I put them in the tank. I wasn't soaking them long enough at first, but the advantage of the freeze-dried product, it's not frozen, so it's not going to go bad on you and go sour and so on in a fast time period. You can keep it in the freezer for eons and it doesn't change. Um, so there's a big advantage to it that way. And because it's a mixture of copepods, you've got quite a size range in there too. Nothing the size of amphipods, but you still have a decent mixture in there, and they've got a decent nutrition. Now, you were also talking about the live nano.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody, I see so many people saying they're enriching with nano. Well, nano isn't an enrichment, it is food. And if you want live algae to use as food, you're going to need a mixture of at least about 5 different species to get the nutrient profile that's required. There isn't any one live algae out there that you can grow and give to the seahorses that's going to have everything that they need. That's why I switch over after they get going. The spirulina has just about anything I could ask to put in the food. And then by putting the Algamac 3050 in it, I'm adding that high DHA component. Anyway, I got to run for a minute here and feed my seahorses.
Go right ahead. Dan, did you come back or no? Not yet. I don't know if Dan's back or not. Okay, well, I also want to mention, and Cheryl, please feel free to correct me as I go here, or help me out with comments. But I was going to say, if you are interested in breeding and really want to give it that big shove and put forth that effort, then Dan at Seahorse Source sells a bunch of supplies. I know he has not just the probiotics and such, but also enrichments that you can buy for these exact purposes. I don't at all mean to make it sound like it's crazy difficult. I personally think it's great to give enriched treats to seahorses in general. It's just if you're talking about breeding, it becomes a whole different thing, and just a lot of work to keep it going. If you're willing to do it, yeah, that's come ask us any questions you want to ask. But Dan is correct. Artemia is nutritious. Nothing wrong with Artemia. Just should not, the bottom line is it should not be a seahorse's main diet. Frozen Artemia should not be a seahorse's main diet. As long as you're talking about live enriched, or you're talking about mixing Artemia and mysis, or so on. I think Dan's back. No, Dan. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully he'll come back and school us some more. But that, that's the bottom line. He's right. And sometimes we just will try to make it easier. I personally, on one of my videos the other day, I got a comment from someone who said, "Thanks. Now I know not to get seahorses." And of course, my response was, "Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I would much rather somebody be prepared and know that that's not what they want to do. It's, whatever, versus get seahorses and not do well." So it is what it is, but it's not hard to keep seahorses. There are just choices along the way. And breeding is a different subject. How's that? Did I do well at covering that? I'm not sure. Hi, Harkins. Ocean Nutrition, yes. Ocean Nutrition. And Jim West, if I recall correctly, did the early work on, it was Jim. I don't think his last name was West. Oh, I've talked to him many times, so I'm embarrassed that I can't remember his last name. You might be right. But I really thought it was someone else. It's actually in my interview with Chad at the beginning of this channel. Not a great interview, but if you listen to it, you'll learn a lot of stuff because Chad talked about all of it. I just wasn't very good with the camera yet, guys. But you can definitely learn a lot from them, the interview with him. And we're in Hangouts, Harkins. You can feel free to come in. I'll try to put the link up again. We're just chit-chatting. I'm getting excited and ready for Macna. So here's the YouTube one, and here's the original. Here you go. And we're talking about the nutritiousness of Artemia in this type of situation. And yeah, because again, I know I've been guilty. I've been one of the people who has said, no, you don't want to feed your seahorses just Artemia. But that's because I'm, brine shrimp. But that's because I'm considering, I just think that most hobbyists already are going, an extra mile to keep seahorses and want to keep seahorses healthy. And throwing too much at them can sometimes be more harm than good, I guess. But Dan is absolutely correct. Artemia is nutritious. And I know that we were going to have a gentleman on the channel who works for, I think, San Francisco Bay, come in here and explain some of the work that he's done with Artemia. And I got to get back on that and get him in here to talk to us because I can see you guys are interested in this stuff. So we need to get it back in here. Let me know if you're interested in hearing from some of the people who can tell us exactly about the foods that we're talking about. Because I know frozen food, all of it's just, it's with shipping and just with the constant degrading of it. It's hard with the frozen foods. Do you, Ray, do you have any troubles with frozen foods in Canada?
The only time I can remember, one of the stores that I bought it from, when they pulled it out of the freezer to give it to me, I had ordered a dozen packs, and they were putting it in the bag, and I said, that's all been refrozen. He said, it's melted or thawed and then been refrozen. It was all misshaped. And I said, I'm not buying that.
Right.
And they were all ticked off at me because I wouldn't take it. But, I stood by my ground. I told them it's no good. I have no way to know if it's going to cause deaths because I don't have a lab that I can check it out myself, and I'm not taking a chance on it.
Right. Now, I'm curious. Do you,
it come in fine, and that's it. Like,
good.
This is the mice, and I've been using mice ever since I got seahorses. But as far as frozen brine, I used to buy it occasionally when I was reefing and that. But basically, I preferred the live stuff. I've been growing live brine to adult for 25 years, and so it's just a regular thing with me. And so it was to the point that unless I had some emergency situation, there wasn't much point in buying the frozen.
Well, that is definitely the way to do it. I mean, if you're just not lazy like me, if you're willing to, do the feeds for the feeds for the feeds, man, that's the way to do it because that is going to provide the most nutritious benefit to your seahorses or anything. It's just what somebody's willing to do. And I see Harkins, did you join? Well, he came in. I don't know.
I did. I'm just trying to get on my Bluetooth.
Okay, no worries.
That way it's easier for me to talk.
Sure. Did you have anything in particular that you wanted to mention? I know you were commenting about ocean nutrition.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry. Okay, Ray, I was going to actually ask you, what would happen if, like, say I'm desperate as a hobbyist, I go to my local store, all they've got, I don't have anything, growing, I don't have live foods. I go to the store to buy frozen foods and all of it looks terrible. This has actually happened to me before. And I don't have a choice. My seahorses will either not eat or they'll eat something that I know probably isn't very good. What can happen to them? What?
Go to a different store.
Well, in my case, it was an hour away and I actually did. But I'm just curious, if somebody feeds bad foods to their seahorses, what can happen?
What can happen, you can lose them. But the thing is, I can't say that if they do it at that particular time that they are going to lose them, because I have no way to know
Right.
what the effects of that thaw have been. If the thaw was a long time ago, then it has a better chance of doing damage than if it was something that was just very recent.
No,
And you have no way to know that either.
very good point. Very good point. And I absolutely agree. It's difficult because knowing it. I wish Tammy's article was still up online because it was so fantastic. It showed the exact differences. I got to get with her and get that article back online because it was really great, showing exactly why, talking about why, and showing the differences in the foods, how you can tell if it's been refrozen and such. Um, I know that the food companies are going to great lengths to try to make the frozen foods better, and it's just a matter of literally like shipping is such a pain. It's in the stores maybe not unpacking the when they should and things like that. So I don't know.
If you're
It's really
really in
hard.
a jam, and there are no other stores, for instance, and it's mysis that you're after, and this is what the damaged product is, then temporarily, if their frozen brine is okay, then you could get by using the
And
frozen brine for a period of time.
And there you
And
have it. And that is why it's so important. Dan was right to say that brine shrimp is not necessarily bad. Absolutely.
yeah,
Bravo. Good, great comeback. That was perfect, Ray. Really.
well, and even if they don't have the frozen brine or something else, then it's going to depend on how mature your seahorses are and what kind they are. If they're
Right.
big enough to eat larger foods, then there are other foods that the frozen food does sell, and I can't think of specific names at the moment, but there
Right.
are marine packs there that I've seen,
Yes,
and
just something. Right.
some that is a little bit larger than what the mysis would be. But if you have a full-size adult seahorse, then it may be worth trying that.
Yep. My
And
my
then
my adults have taken krill before. That they've taken it. That's all I can say. They've eaten krill. So
yeah,
Christopher Carey. Hello, Christopher Carey. We miss you. Feel free to jump in if you want. But Chris mentioned that one of the things that can happen is internal bacterial infections that are brought on by those bad foods. So, absolutely correct. And so that's what we're trying to avoid. Chris, we were talking about um, what foods are good and whether artemia is necessarily bad, because it's not necessarily bad if you're enriching it, and it's not necessarily bad in general, as Ray was just pointing out. It's better than bad mysis. And so we were just kind of discussing these different things. And let's see, Cheryl said she's experimenting with using reed marked culture phytopaste, which works great for culturing A. panamensis pods, and testing in on artemia to improve their nutritional plane. Ooh, go Cheryl! And then we need you to sell them. That's what we need. Yay! No, but
back many, many years ago, before I even got into seahorses, I bought the phytopaste from Brine Shrimp Direct.
mm-hmm.
They had a product called Tahitian Blend, which was a blend of many different kinds, and you could store this stuff in the freezer, and it worked okay until border situations got a heck of a lot worse, and stuff started sitting at the border, and this stuff was being shipped with ice, but still, it wouldn't last long enough for how long customs was holding it up. Um, and then too, it became a big thing. The shipping from the States to here got very, very expensive.
Sure.
So come down to the point it wasn't worth it to me anymore. And that's when I did research on the spirulina, or spirulina as Dan calls it. But I did research on that and found out it was a very nutritious thing. So I started making a paste up out of that, putting it in the blender like his foods that he has. And I could keep this stuff, the spirulina powder, in the freezer, pulled out, put it in a blender, run it for at least 2 minutes, and then store it in a pop bottle in the fridge and just pull out and use as needed. Now I'd make up enough to last me about 7 or 8 days at the most, because I didn't want it going bad.
Sure.
And I found it worked excellent. And then I was already using an Algamac product. It was a product that they had before the 3050, and I can't remember whether it was 20 something or whatever, but it was a forerunner to the 3050. And so I was using that with the paste that I had used before, just to give more boost to the DHA component. But I found after that with this spirulina powder, it was much more convenient to deal with than the phyto paste. And I didn't have to have, because I had to have a mixture of the different phyto pastes in order to get a proper nutrition. I don't have to do that with the spirulina, other than just add the Algamac. So that part, to me, it worked well. So I've been doing that for many years.
Gotcha. I think that's what Dan actually, that's what I know, that's what he recommended to me when I was working on it, is to use the spirulina, however you want to say it, on a regular basis to keep the Artemia fed and doing well, and then use like Dan's feed with probiotics or algmac, however you say it, or whatever, as long as you know what's in it, that you're providing the right DHA components, that you're providing all the nutrition needed to enrich before feeding. There's even cycles where, how long before you have to do it, so many hours before, to make sure they actually get it, kind of thing. It's intense. And I mean, if you want to do that, this is the place to learn about it, because they'll, or, talk to Dan, talk to Ray, talk to Cheryl. Absolutely. Cause it's definitely the best way to do it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What about enriching with Cellcon?
Okay.
You guys do any enriching with Cellcon?
Cellcon doesn't have anywhere near the DHA that Algamac has.
Okay.
Even if you buy the Cellco DHA, that DHA level is still lower than what the Algamac is.
Okay.
And the bad part about the emulsions is, first of all, they don't store very well, and people don't realize when it's going bad. It smells bad to begin with, so they don't know when it's turned that it's not doing them any good. Where the Algamac is the powder, you can keep it in the freezer. You can't do that with the Cellco or Cellcon. They're both enrichments, but
yeah,
the one can get many different varieties. But I got turned off the emulsions because the damn things would go bad before I could use them up.
Okay, and then where do you source the Algamac from?
He said, where do you source
I buy
it?
it direct from, I buy it direct from, I got cognitive impairment. I can't pull words out, but the company, I think they're in California. And so I have it shipped here to Canada. And but the only other source is Dan. Dan buys it and then sells it to his customers. Mm-hmm. And the Algamac is a part of his Dan feed, I believe. And in addition to that, you can buy the Algamac alone from him. At least you could at one time. So I'm pretty sure he still does.
Yep, he's got Dan's feed and all sorts of stuff.
If that site is back up again, you can always look on the foods, and then the part for the boosting nutrition. That same page that they're showing all the Dan feed, that kind of thing on. It'll have Algamac as well, and he has it packaged up the same as his Dan's feed, and ships that out there. So that's the easiest way to get it. And if you're just using normal parts, that's fine. But for me, because of the volume I was using and the fact I was selling to stores, I had to buy it in the large bags that they would ship out to me.
Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to say very quickly that I do see some of the questions. I will make sure that they get answered before we get off. So if you have to jump away or something, just rewind or come back in a minute. I just want to make sure everybody knows that I will make sure all those questions get answered. And Eric, I saw your message. I saw a big fan. Gotta say thumbs up. I'll read it after the stream. And then, Harkins, are you going to Macna?
I am not.
No, oh, I'm so sad. Okay. Well, I was going to try to pull that back in, but what are you up to? I wanted to give you time since you jumped in.
I actually just left the Super Zoo 2019.
Super Zoo? What's that?
So it's basically an industry, like it's where all the dealers come to show off all their products.
Nice.
So it's not only, I mean, it was very lightly attended by aquarium companies. There's like every pet collar company, pet food company you can dream of. This is where they all come.
Nice.
But I went there to just go see the new stuff, and I might have some stuff in the pipeline for products.
Nice.
Maybe next year. We'll see. I've been talking to a lot of manufacturers, so.
Well, tell me this. What do you think? If you can, if you can't, that's fine. But what would you say is the next thing coming out? The next big thing, based on what you saw.
Honestly, a lot of the stuff that's kind of newer to market is coming freshwater.
Really?
But
okay.
But something that they kind of showed that was kind of cross market was these. It's like a media pellet that is like. Do you know what Orbeez are? Like they're like that gel.
Okay.
Ball that you hydrate.
Okay.
Well, they're hydrating it with like bacterial products, and so over time, as like it sits in your water column, it actually basically doses bacteria to your system.
Over time. Wow. That's really cool. That's really cool.
That being said, Dr. Tim's announced something like that last year, but this is kind of a more mainstream manufacturer, would say.
Well, I got to meet Dr. Tim at Macna 2 years ago, and absolutely love the man. So I should have known that it was already out. Whoops, sorry.
He's a good time. I spent about 20 minutes with him today.
Good. Aw. Well, I'm so sad you're not going to Macna, but I'm glad to hear that you got to go to this. How's
I was at Reefapalooza this weekend too, so.
Ooh, did you get to hear Kat speak?
I was
grounded.
I was only in Kat's speech for about half of it. I didn't see the whole time.
She did amazing, didn't she?
She's really awesome. I spent a lot of time with her anyways. Mm-hmm. Just like her influencer stuff is really, really cool.
Yes.
But I was with Rico pretty much from Friday morning at 7 a.m. until Sunday when I left.
Well, Rico's a good time, so I'm sure you had fun.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I did some cool stuff. I lined up BRS giveaways for him. And
wow.
So
nice.
I'm trying to be like a social media middleman, I feel like.
Gotcha. I hear you.
But not really. Like I want to be as much of an influencer as the people that I help get stuff to be an influencer, but I'm not pushing as hard.
You know what though? The thing is too is when you keep giving, it comes back around. Bottom line, it will.
Right?
You know, so keep going.
I got about 45 Instagram followers this weekend alone.
Wow, good.
So,
see, I don't even pay attention to that stuff, so I'm really not the one to talk to. I'm bad. I'm really horrible about keeping track of that stuff. I should do better, but that's awesome. Really great. I'm glad
what
to hear
Kat
it.
said. You got to keep track of it.
Yeah, she's right. She's right. If you're going to be an influencer, you got to have a plan. Believe me, Kat is the one who helped me with women in reefing last year, and with
Oh yeah,
Seahorse and Pipefish. She is a planner. Do it right. Know your people. Know what you're going. Where you're going. It was great. She was an awesome inspiration. She's right, but I'm just not good
so
at it.
Sorry, I'm back.
so
Hi, Dan.
one of the really cool things was they had like a sticker meetup
Okay.
at Reefapalooza.
Okay.
And so basically, like, it's really cool because, you'll see when you're browsing Instagram or whatever, just all these different people posting. And, like, you might follow them, but it's fun to put faces to names, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
usernames to faces.
Now tell me how this worked, because I'm asking because Dan, just to update you. I'm sorry, Ray. We'll get back to seahorses in just a second. But Dan,
No problem.
okay, Dan, he was telling me he went to was it called Interzoo? Is that what it's called?
Super Zoo.
I'm
Interzoo
sorry.
is an international version.
Okay, so he went
Super
to
Zoo is the American conference.
So he went to Super Zoo, and before that, he went to Reefapalooza. And he was telling what his sticker idea. I want to know more because I've got we could do it with the Seahorse and Pipefish gig. What aside from putting faces to names, did they do something that would last beyond that? Anything like that?
So we got everybody like handed out stickers to everyone that was there.
Uh huh.
Like I got 35 or 36 stickers from different users. But kind of one of the cool things that has come from it is we basically all put ourselves in a giant Instagram group chat.
Ah.
And so now it's like if somebody's doing something, you can already count on 30 plus likes out the gate to launch your project or whatever.
That's really
like stuff
cool.
that helps it trend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's different. It was Kat's idea. It
Well,
was
then I
really
already
cool.
know it was good.
It was really cool because actually, Kat ended up getting some of the exhibitors to donate stuff. Like, I want a bag of Brightwall salt.
Mm-hmm.
And an export brick, but that's not something I would have ever bought for myself. So now I get to try a product
Yeah.
because of this,
Absolutely. That's what these shows really, really do help with. Well, I'm so glad you had a good time, and thanks for sharing some of the cool stuff you got to see and do. I hope it
Yeah.
does benefit you.
And then I'm going to be posting my Super Zoo stuff tonight on Instagram.
Well, you guys heard it. Everybody go check out Harkins Aquatics. Is that what it's called on Instagram?
At Harkins Aquatics, yes.
There you go. All right. I'll try if you ding me, I will put a link in the description afterwards, but I say that all the time and I forget. So ding me, and I will.
I'll DM you on Instagram.
Okay. All right. Anyways,
Perfect.
I mean, and yeah, I appreciate you coming in, and I mean, if you have any other thoughts or questions, please feel free.
I'm just a big advocate of Reef Nutrition. I like a lot of their products.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, because I haven't bred seahorses, but I've done peppermint shrimp and clownfish. And if you're a guy who just doesn't have time to make food for them, those products seem to be very helpful. The new Ocean Nutrition baby brine shrimp in a jar was like game changing for my peppermint shrimp breeding.
Really? Now, is this like?
So
Are you talking about the little or the? It's like a little. It's like this big. And, well, you probably can't see that, but it's literally like a liquid thing, like a jar.
It looks like when you get like a fancy ketchup jar.
Yeah.
At like in the airport or something. It's that size.
Okay.
But honestly, like, so I always had a hard time getting my peppermint shrimp fry out of like that stage from where they're born to where
Eat
they get
frozen.
their legs,
Okay, yeah.
and that product being like it doesn't need to be frozen. It's packaged in the jar in a little bit of oil, and the the peppermint shrimp actually eat it. So
Right. I'm curious to.
like
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you're good.
Okay, I was just gonna say I know what you're talking about now because I tried it with seahorse fry, and they would eat it. Don't get me wrong, but the problem was keeping it moving, and it was better than
Yeah,
like weighed down frozen foods and it didn't like instantly sink, so there was some there was some success with it, but I would have to remove way more than like once it hit the ground, it was over. They weren't eating it. So, but I
yeah.
mean,
They don't
good to know for like peppermint shrimp and
go
such.
down like yeah.
Right,
The peppermint shrimp will go to the bottom for it,
right.
but it's like it's very highly enriched as it is. So
Gotcha.
like you can't keep it in the water column a long time. So you kind of got to figure out just enough to feed them, but not too much, or you'll pollute out the water.
Yep. Speaking of which,
Which
oh, go ahead.
if you think it's hard with uh, with seahorses that you can see, I mean, the peppermint shrimp are basically glass colored,
Uh,
so you don't really want to suck them out. So
right. I can't imagine.
yeah,
And not to jump around, but I did want to make sure Dan had a chance. Dan, you were in the middle of talking. If you want to finish that, but I also was curious as I was talking to everybody else about the. You said something right before you left, I think, about frozen brine shrimp being enriched, and I want to know how much that can truly be counted on.
Okay. Well, the point I was going to make was
Yes.
that if you read the package, it says they're enriched with spirulina, and spirulina is great on the protein level, and it's got uh, other things in it. But what it doesn't provide is the fatty acids.
Mm,
So, when you're feeding frozen brine shrimp, it's not that it's not nutritious; it's just that it's not complete.
that's a good way to put it. It's not that it's not nutritious, it's just that it's not complete. Very, thank you for settling that because that's a great way to put it. So for the average, how, do you differentiate what you advise based on whether somebody's trying to breed or whether they're just a hobby, trying to keep seahorses?
No, I differentiate based not upon what they want to do, but upon my perception of their skill level and what they're willing to do.
Hmm. Okay.
You know, because there's some people that will, you have to be careful because a lot of new people, when they first start out, they spend a fortune trying to do everything. And it's better for them to go slow in the beginning and figure out if they really like what they're doing and can handle it.
Right.
I had a guy down in Miami that wanted me to come down and set up a price system for him. And this guy was getting ready to drop several grand on me setting everything up for him. And he was just doing this as a hobby. And, it was kind of crazy. It's better to start off small and experiment and decide if you really want to invest because
Right.
when you get through with everything, if you're going to start doing live feeds and everything else, the costs are going to go up significantly.
Speaking of which, I'm sorry to keep throwing Macna in, guys, but if you want to talk live feeds, Tamara Marshall is the big live feeds expert at the Dallas World Aquarium, and she will be speaking at Macna. So, like, if you're into this kind of stuff, I really hope you all's coming to Macna. And I've already said I'm gonna drag Dan. Yay! And so come to Macna. Okay, sorry, Dan. All right. And then a couple other questions, really quick. I'm sorry to jump around, but I want to make sure everybody gets answered. And you might have already done so in the comments. Did you answer the tuxedo urchins? No.
Somebody did that they would bulldoze everything down, but I have a problem with urchins as a rule with seahorses anyway.
Okay.
And supposedly the tuxedos are one of the better urchins for seahorses,
Mm-hmm.
according to a person who was actually breeding them. However, when I scrounged around through looking at everything, I found where several people had complaints against them.
Gotcha. Okay, and I know that there was a question that I wanted to make sure got answered. I'm sorry, guys. Trying to find it. I just want to make sure nobody goes unanswered. I swear there was a question. Maybe it was on Facebook. Well, maybe you were answering it in the meantime. Probably were. Okay. Well, anyways, was there anything else that you were trying to
I
say
think
that I
that
interrupted you?
no, what I think Holly had the question about how
Yeah.
can you tell food is frozen and
Yes.
refrozen.
Yes. And do you want to take it or can I?
If you want, I don't care either way.
Well, let me try, and then you can go the extra mile. All right. So, as just an average hobbyist, when I go to the store and I look at the frozen foods, first of all, if you see any kind of, first of all, if it's discolored, is the first key indicator. If it doesn't look the right color like it usually looks, if it looks brown, there's a problem. If they pull it out, and I mean, obviously, if it feels like it's not still frozen or has been refrozen, then that's a problem. There's also bubbles in the corner, and the food will actually like when the food defrosts and they've got it in a container like this, the food will literally kind of go into that position. So it's half and half sometimes, or you'll see bubbles from where air has done something. Dan's going to give you a better explanation in a minute. But bottom line is, yeah, if it just you can visually typically tell if food's not or if it's been thawed and then refrozen, and as soon as it has, you're kind of like in not a good situation. Think about leaving something on the counter. You don't, you wouldn't refreeze it. So all right, Dan, go ahead, say the scientific mumbo jumbo.
It won't be scientific, but the first clue is what you were alluding to is the color.
Yeah.
And whether it's been refrozen or not, if the mices aren't light colored and they've darkened up, that means it's already starting to turn rancid. And that can be from either one, uh, partial thawing and refreezing, or number two, not being kept cold enough. With flat packs, it's pretty easy. If it's been defrosted and refrozen, usually they won't maintain their perfect shape. Um, if it's been kept perfectly frozen, the flat packs will be nice, flat, and crisp. The these bubble packs with the cubes are going to be tougher, uh, but you can tell by the color.
Right, absolutely. Anything besides color that you would advise?
Well, to me, color is where it's at. Because if it's already turned, you can also tell a big difference when you're rinsing the food. If something that
Mm.
is starting to darken up, when you go to rinse it, you'll see a lot more stuff come off of it than a nice, fresh, light colored frozen pack.
Right. Oh, I do want to mention too that PE mysis is sometimes, like it's not white. It's like a pinkish. But what we're alluding to is it not being browned or darker in color, where you can tell it's going bad. And Chris mentioned the smell, and that's interesting because you're right. I've noticed that too. What were you gonna say, Dan?
Well, the smell, when you start getting that fishy smell, that's from bacteria already taking part and it's already gone rancid and the bacteria is starting.
Yep, absolutely. So good points, guys. And yeah, I think you covered it. It is really the color and the smell. And that's another thing. Oh, that's what I was going to say is that a lot of times also, and this sounds so simple, but I personally have made this mistake before. Watch your expiration dates. Because even keeping, like if you buy a bunch of food, I don't know. I've bought in quantity before, and I've realized after I've started using it, oh my gosh, this is expired. And so just watch that too. I'm trying to think of anything I can help with.
Well, in general, a hobbyist should not buy quantity of frozen foods unless they're
Right.
using a lot of quantity quickly. And the reason for that is frozen seafood should be kept at sub-zero temperatures, typically minus 40 or lower. And home freezers do not have that capability. So you buy 6 months worth of food. By the end of the 6 months, some of that's already going rancid.
Gotcha.
And
I
a
know.
good way to look at it is if you're buying seafood for yourself, how would you treat it? And think of
Right.
it the same way for the fish.
Very good point. Hey, Chris, I wanted to ask while I know you're still around. So, Guy, and anybody else watching, if I can get some sort of live stream going on during the Seahorse and Pipefish meet, what do you think? Do you think we should force Chris to get on our time limit and come join us? Him and Sam? I'm thinking we should. What do you think, Chris? All right. I just had to say that real quick. All right, Dan, anything else, or Ray, that you guys wanted to discuss? Or Harkins, if he's still here? He is not. All right.
Oh, I'm going to have to leave here soon anyway. I'm kind of beat and I got some things to do before I can go to bed.
I got you. Well, I really appreciate you coming and chatting with us and helping with all the questions. And yeah, I need to get off and put up the Seahorse and Pipefish sign up. Lucy needs to know how many people are coming. So I need to go soon too. But I appreciate you coming. And Dan, was there anything else you wanted to
No, not
discuss?
specifically.
Did we miss anything? You can tell me.
Well, I'm sorry. I had to step out for a few minutes and I missed a lot. So I don't know what was what.
So you missed it all. I got you now. Okay, then. All right. Well, guys, if I missed anything, because my helper Lucy was unable to connect to the internet tonight, so she wasn't watching for me. If I did miss anything, just let me know. And Kim, did you say you're coming to Macna? And Kim, you might have saw the picture on my article, but the website's not working right now, so it's not up. Anyhow, all right, guys. Well, thank you guys all so much for coming. If I did miss anything, we'll pick it up next week. I'm not going to start interviews back again until I'm back from Macna, because I just feel like that's too much to try to put in until then. So we'll do open chat until for the next 2 weeks. So come back, talk about whatever you want, and yeah. All right, guys.
Chris is asking a question.
Oh,
It's
I'm
going to
sorry.
be, Mac. The event is going to be on Saturday, not this coming, but the following.
It's Labor Day weekend, actually. And
Yeah, but
so
he's in a different country.
I'm sorry. That's right. Okay. All right. So, Chris, I'm sorry. It is the 30th, I believe. Is the 30th Friday or Saturday? It's Saturday. It's Saturday the 30th or 31st or whatever, right around there. And it's at 10:30 in the morning, Florida time. So we'll have to calculate that. I will message you on the side for sure, because I would love to have you involved somehow. That'd be really cool. And he says he'll try. So good. All right, guys. Well, the glass is empty and everybody's yawning. So everybody say bye. I'm going to say Happy Wine Wednesday.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Thank you guys for coming. Happy Wine Wednesday. Cheers. And we